All right, good morning, beautiful people. July 17th, Thursday. Today is the Crypto Report. Joining me is our co-host Josh. Josh, how you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Yourself?
Feeling better, battling pneumonia. Still got a little bit of lingering effects, but definitely feel better than I did earlier this week. So doesn't hurt that crypto, in particular, nearly everything at this point actually is breaking out. Bitcoin all-time highs. Ethereum is up into multi-month highs. We're going to talk about that, as well as a couple of the trades that you're going to highlight, things that we've highlighted on this crypto report over the last couple of weeks. A lot of big trades that we've put on are up huge right now. And I want to give you the lion's share of the talking here. I know that you brought up Bitcoin dominance. There's a lot to talk about today. So I'm going to take a back seat and let you kind of yap. For those of you that are listening, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in YouTube chat. I'll periodically look over there and see if there's anything that you guys want answered. Josh, take it away. Start with Bitcoin.
Sounds great. Bitcoin trading 118.9 essentially, just below its all-time high. We essentially have we're basing right below its all-time high. We broke out to 123, and now we are looking to make that next leg up. Right now, the conversation's really been about Bitcoin versus Ethereum, and so Bitcoin's taking a bit of a break here while Ethereum shows its strength. I don't believe, much to a bear's dismay, that the Bitcoin rally is over, and this is simply just a break from that 110 to 123 before we make the next leg up and give the rest of the market a chance to catch up.
Yeah, I don't think. I think it goes without saying that I don't think Bitcoin is anywhere near being done. The big thing here is, and we talk about this at least once every week, is that most people that are trading crypto, particularly full time, I do full time with air quotes, but people that focus on crypto full time, they have attention spans of a fucking goldfish, and they think that if things aren't going up 100% every day, that the trade is over. These are the guys that are sitting on crypto Twitter for the last 10 years that are still broke. They'll never figure it out. You got to give these trades room to breathe. You got to understand that things move quickly and then base, and then move quickly and then base. That's exactly what happened during this bull flag that formed in Bitcoin. We hit all-time highs, and then from May through the beginning of July, we built this beautiful bull flag. We got the breakout. We got a pop up and over the 109, 110 area, and we hit all the way up to 120. So, like I said, most people are going to get bored. The worst thing you can do is get bored and short, but most people are going to get bored and take profits and say the trade's over, when in reality, trends are up, momentum is up. This trend still continues to give the advantage to bulls, and like you said, price target here, conservatively speaking, 150 to 160 by the time this is over, but I know that you have a way higher price target, and it wouldn't surprise me either. So let's talk about Bitcoin dominance, because I think that's the big thing here. Obviously, we're going to talk about Ethereum. We have a lot of money on Ethereum. We've made a fuck ton of money on Ethereum over the last couple of weeks. For those of you that have tuned in, hopefully you've made some money with this on the Ethereum trade. We're going to talk through that, but I really think the core message in today's crypto report is Bitcoin dominance. So let's go ahead and talk through that. Josh, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So one kind of through message we've had for the last arguably 2 years since we started this little mini podcast is that Bitcoin dominance is important, but not as important as it used to be. Right? With the inflows from institutional funds, spot ETFs, government purchases from around the world, and more broadly, entities like MicroStrategy, there's no way for that wealth effect from Bitcoin to flow from Bitcoin down to Ethereum. Well, in theory there is, but down to the smaller alts. And so that has had a lesser effect. Very similar to a handful of other times in the last year and a half, we're seeing this sell-off in Bitcoin dominance. And so that's indicating to us that this wealth effect is occurring where crypto natives and folks with assets in ecosystems are now rotating out of Bitcoin into other assets. The other side to this Bitcoin dominance conversation, which, there was a bearish divergence of Bitcoin dominance over the last couple of weeks. We didn't really speak to it too much because this has happened a handful of times. That simply just reverses. In the same way that we think the Bitcoin run's not over, when Bitcoin does break out from 123 again, I imagine that we'll continue in an uptrend in Bitcoin dominance, but we take these few week periods of time to really build out profits in our portfolio and build out on all trades. The counter side to Bitcoin dominance is if you pull up ETH dominance, ETH.D, and you can see that, much like ETH BTC, is exploding. So we can really say that a lot of these funds, obviously some are flowing into altcoins, right? We're seeing alts move 5, 10, 20, 25% a day for the last handful of days. But yesterday, Ethereum saw the biggest inflow day in its ETF history, right? On nearly $800 million in inflows from Wall Street. The ETH.D chart up to 10.95% from mid nines just yesterday alone. And so that's kind of where that money's flowing to, and a good indicator for a famed altcoin season, as it's been coined for years to come. But from the Bitcoin dominance chart, I think that we might see a further sell-off, and kind of using the weekly chart with some moving averages as a good indicator, and trying to see where this gets down to, and then possibly reversal once Bitcoin makes its next move up into that 130, 140 range.
I want to point something out, that even if Bitcoin dominance is coming down, it doesn't necessarily mean the price of Bitcoin is coming down. It just means that that new money flowing into the system is not necessarily primarily going to Bitcoin. I think there's a common misconception, particularly when we think about the concept of relative strength. I'm going to bring up the ETH BTC chart, not necessarily because I want to talk about this trade, but we might as well because we're looking at it. One thing to consider here is that ETH against BTC is taking the absolute performance of Ethereum, and we're dividing it by the absolute performance of Bitcoin. Which asset is performing better? From the period of 2019 all the way to about the middle of 2021 or the end of 2021, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin by 400%. Right? We've done the number. We've run the numbers. We know that it was a better trade to have Ethereum than Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin got all of the headlines. Having said that, if you look at Bitcoin, it's not that Bitcoin went down from 2019 to end of 2021 in value. It went up. It's just that Ethereum went up at a quicker pace. That's what this relative strength concept allows us to key in on. What is the better asset to own at the time? And in this case, it's Ethereum. If you go back to BTCD, as Ethereum started to run in 2019 and 2020, you can see Bitcoin dominance was still chugging along higher. So it's not a perfect correlation, right? I need people to understand that Bitcoin dominance falling tends to be bullish for altcoins, and particularly shit coins. I'm talking like some of the skeeziest stuff in the market you can possibly think about, the junkiest stuff. But it doesn't mean that Bitcoin is going down, and it doesn't mean necessarily that everything has to rally. It's just, where is the money flowing, right? So as you pointed out, Bitcoin has come down over the last couple of weeks here in dominance. We've seen that kind of breadth build out in the crypto market, particularly in Ethereum. We saw the big pop, but we've seen the pop come in from the April lows. We keyed in on it. May 8th was our first real buy into Ethereum, right? We were not necessarily the absolute first people in this trade, but we were one of the first people to understand what was going on in terms of relative strength and Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. And now, obviously, if you look at on a candlestick chart here, if we go back to where May 8th was right here. As we broke above 2,000, we said we got to get it, right? There was, we call this a scoop and score pattern here. It looked to take out some bearish liquidity on a big rally, and we expected that if it was going to squeeze the shorts, this might be a reversal pattern. That ended up being the right call. So we got in on May 8th, and here we are. Ethereum is up somewhere around 50-60% from where we originally entered the trade. And if you go back and you look at Bitcoin from that May 8th buy-in, let's take it just from the absolute bottom. Let's say you absolutely bought the open, you're the absolute bottom on May 8th. You're only up 22%, which is still a great trade, right? Can we all agree? 22% on Bitcoin is a great trade, but it's fucking less than half of the performance for Ethereum. So the things that we talk about, particularly inside of TTR, are a little bit higher level stuff than most people can grasp. And it's because we've been doing this for a long time. We're not necessarily saying don't own Bitcoin or own Bitcoin. We're just talking about, on a relative basis, what is the better asset to own in this particular time period. And as Josh eloquently put it, it's been Ethereum. So let's talk through that ETH BTC chart really quick. I'm going to let you do it, Josh. What are we expecting here, not only in the next coming weeks, but I'm talking quarters, and I don't know. Last time it was years. I don't know if it's going to be years again, but what is reasonable to expect here in this ETH BTC chart? And then maybe talk about some of the ramifications of what happens when Ethereum, from a broader crypto ecosystem standpoint, really starts to run. What else starts to run?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'll start with that and work my way backwards. Building off that Bitcoin dominance conversation, a lot of people think that that is the key indicator for altcoin season. That's when your bags you've been holding for so long that your cousin showed you at Thanksgiving. That's when it's going to run. And I've for
Fuck that
quite a
cousin, man. That
while
guy's an
disagreed.
asshole.
But I've disagreed with that for quite a while because of the changes in the market this cycle. And so I think ETH BTC as well as ETH dominance are really the indicators when it comes to an altcoin season and what that means for the broader market. And so as ETH BTC climbs, I'm the next move, in my opinion, is to that 0.04 level where we chopped around and, we actually had some thought about potential outperformance last year, even December of 2024. And I think the higher ETH BTC climbs, the more favorable the altcoin market's going to become. And then that's going to be reflected in the charts like Total, Total 2, Total 3, and others. And so what we want to do now, essentially, with the strength that Ethereum is showing, ETH BTC chart, the ETH dominance chart, the Ethereum, USD chart, is we want to look at these and then go to altcoins and try to find, those large caps, mid caps, maybe some small caps that are outperforming, showing relative strength in setups that we like. And the idea is that we'll put risk on at these levels so that if this market continues to rally like it has for the last couple of weeks, that we're catching those massive moves from those trade setup breakouts. We've shared a bunch of trades on TTI, whether that's, I always talk about Fartcoin, but whether that's Pengu, Psy, a number of other names. XRP, yesterday, Doge going out. And so this is kind of the time to catch those breakouts after things have kind of made that initial move off of their lows and many of those altcoins multi-month or multi-year lows. And now's the time to kind of start pushing that risk into the market, especially with Total, the total crypto market cap at
Let's look at that
all-time
really
high.
quick. Let's talk about that because this is so in the grand scheme of things. I've been in the crypto market now for more than a decade, which makes me a fucking dinosaur. I'll tell you right now that we never used to have things like TOTAL to look at. We used to go into, I think, CoinMarketCap was the OG website back 10 years ago that we would go and try to peruse through market cap and liquidity shit and stuff. This TOTAL chart, in my mind, is arguably the most important chart in the entire crypto market, and it's not necessarily from a trading standpoint. It's from a defining the environment standpoint. If you're looking for a reason to be bullish or bearish, it starts with, is liquidity entering the goddamn market? That's it. Everything in the market, every fucking thing in the market, doesn't matter if it's crypto market, TradFi market, you're trading equities, bonds, currencies, whatever, look for where the money is moving. And in this case, in the crypto market, we can visualize that using TOTAL. That's it. This is a visual representation of whether or not money is leaving the market or entering the market. In this particular asset class, the trend is up. Money has been entering the crypto asset class since the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, which ironically was the bottom of the TradFi bear market as well. If you aren't in line with the fact that TradFi and crypto are highly correlated, you are insane. And the bull case here is, as long as we're trending higher in this whole crypto market cap, if you're bearish, you're a goddamn idiot. You're fighting trends, and in my case, people that fight trends don't exist in the market for very long. They're really loud on Twitter, but they tend to fizzle out and they don't make any goddamn money. So here we are, as we've said, risk on above 3 trillion for the last year and a half. We've said as long as we're above 3 trillion, we got to be long the market with size. Here we are back up and over not only 3 trillion, but like you said, up into all-time highs. Trends are up. I continue to think that, like I said earlier, or I guess in previous crypto reports, conservatively, 4.5 trillion is my goal here. 1.618 fib extension for the total crypto market cap this cycle, and I know you have way more bullish. Feel free to talk through that.
Well, 4.5, but we're going to move 18% higher. What's that? The market cap of NVIDIA? I think that's one thing that a lot of people
you're right.
underestimate, right? Is like, Bitcoin's this massive asset. You have all these shitcoin assets worth, we'll speak about Fartcoin later at, $1.5 billion. I'm like, the entire crypto market, all of it, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all of the shitcoins combined are essentially worth what NVIDIA is worth. And so, to say, and I'm not disagreeing with 4.5 trillion, but, that's a 19% move from here, right? If we think that Bitcoin's going to 160, 180K, we think Ethereum's going to all-time highs above 4,500 or 4,800, sorry. If we think altcoins are going to outperform and probably put in at least 100% move over the next, call it 4 or 5 months for the name showing strength, if not multiples of 200 to 200% to 10x, then there's no way we don't blow past 4.5 trillion. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago. The U.S. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent says stablecoins are going to 3 to 4 trillion. They're currently 200 billion in the market. There's no way we can sit at 4.5 trillion and then have a market cap of stablecoins with also 4.5 trillion. And so, for that reason, my targets are much higher, kind of conservatively 6 trillion, getting up to, 9-ish trillion for the entire market, taking into account, Bitcoin at 188K, Ethereum at 10,000, and all coins significantly higher than their current
Stock
price.
this really good.
So,
by the way, I'm on board with you. And by the way, just for everyone listening to this, you should be rooting for this too, because it just means we're going to make more money. So the higher this shit goes, the more money we make. That's what we want. You just said Bitcoin to 188K. It's kind of like, a base case there, let's say. Ethereum to 10K. Once again, I'm going back and I'm going to continue to drill this into people's fucking heads. If Bitcoin goes to 188K, let's say that from current price here to 188, we're moving another 50 to 60%. Okay, that's great. Good trade. It's going to get all the headlines. You said Ethereum potentially 10K, which, by the way, I'm on board with as well. If we went to 10K from right now, that's nearly a 200% move, right? Hopefully the stuff, I say this, the same goddamn thing every single day inside of TTI. And at first people are like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then their portfolio starts to reflect the shit that I say. And they're like, oh my God, okay, this actually matters. Bitcoin is going to get the headlines because it's worth a lot of money per Bitcoin and it's the most popular cryptocurrency. But from a trading standpoint, would you rather own something that's going to move 55% or something that might move 200%? Right? Own the goddamn thing that's going to make you more money. That's the whole point of this. So I'm on board with 6 trillion or whatever fucking number you pull out of your ass. I'm on board. We're long. Trends are up. I hope it goes to 60 trillion. And by the way, we got some comments last week about how crypto, are we worried if any of these things are Ponzi's or a bubble? Nope, don't give a fuck. As a matter of fact, the Ponzi the better, as long as we're not the last assholes holding the trade. I don't care. You can make a lot of money trading Ponzi's and bubbles and everything else. Just don't be the last asshole to hold it. Own 80% of the trend higher and you'll make a bunch of money. The farther these things go, the more money we'll make. So, let's talk through, is there a chart you want to highlight in today's session in particular that you want to go through right now for a potential trade?
Well, so one trade I wanted to highlight was the XRP trade that we've put on multiple times over the last multiple months, but this isn't the trade we'll talk about today. But quickly jumping over to XRP, because they have their ETF launching tomorrow, they've had a lot of bullish sentiment. XRP and Moon Boys are all over everyone's feed. We've put multiple trade ideas out for this trade at the 2 to 210 level at support, and then recently yesterday just put up the trade at the $3 level, which I know a bunch of folks at TTI grabbed. XRP looks fantastic. It's one of the, as much as you might hate it, and myself included, it's one of the few assets in crypto that over the last, call it 12 months, maybe even longer, has outperformed Bitcoin and has reached a new all-time high. Something that's not common is multi-cycle coins. We're talking 2017 for XRP, making new all-time highs every cycle. And this cycle it has. So I think that's a shout out to XRP. They have a spot ETF coming tomorrow to US markets. They had a futures ETF get launched a couple months back, which kind of was a nothing burger, a dud. And while I don't think Wall Street's going to be allocating any money substantially to XRP, the chart looks really great. And so if you can get in around that $3 level on that breakout, even this kind of 340 level, if you want to take that all-time high break, that's a good opportunity. But the chart we're going to talk about, and you're going to hate it, it's got to be Fartcoin, which is now listed on Coinbase, meaning nearly everyone in the United States can trade it.
Go ahead, man. I got it up. What are we doing here with this? I know that we've traded this a couple of different times here.
Oh yeah, I'm still holding my positions from the initial breakup, but essentially, this is one of the top meme coins of the last 6 months. Essentially, it ran from a total of $0 to 2.8 billion in market cap. It was the first leading out of those April lows, and kind of one of the things that kicked off altcoins, after April 8th. We set out a trade idea around 40 cents back when that breakout occurred. I believe some people are still in it, myself included. And we've had a couple other breakouts and trade ideas on this since. we're now breaking out of this kind of consolidation and drawdown we've had, much like a lot of other altcoins for the last 2 to 3 months. And so this is something that you want to be owning above 150, above 155 area, and taking this into new all-time highs. And so, if you want to do a quick scalp, a quick trade, you can target kind of the 181 level. But this trade idea, if you're taking that 150, 155 level, I'm looking to take this to all-time highs and beyond. I think, based on the mind share, this is one of the number one talk meme coins on the internet. I think yesterday it had like 25 million mentions and impressions across just Twitter and /X alone. And so not only do you want to build on strength and momentum and want to own assets like this, but we want to own assets that lead the narrative. And Farcoin is one of them.
So just from a pure TA standpoint, I just checked the 50-day moving average. We're trending above an upward sloping 50-day, but we're also starting to get the 200-day moving average. We're trending upwards, and it is sloped higher. We're within a bullish momentum regime, and it looks like we're going to break out of kind of this rounded bottom consolidation fractal over the last couple of months. Very bullish pattern. You find this pattern everywhere, TradFi market, crypto market as well. Like you said, close above 150, 155. Price target's got to be somewhere north of $2 into all-time highs. It's a fairly simple setup. You know exactly where you're right and where you're wrong. Crypto market is rewarding the junkiest crap, just like TradFi is. Why would you not own Farcoin, right? So that's it. That's what we got for you guys. Josh, thank you so much. For those of you that have been following along with our Ethereum stuff over the last couple of months, I hope you guys understand the value that we're giving in these crypto reports. Hopefully your portfolio reflects that. I had the biggest day I've had in a couple of years yesterday with the Ethereum move. Very, very happy with that. And I sent out a newsletter last night, by the way, for those of you that are not on the free newsletter. You can sign up at newsletter.thetradinginitiative.com. I don't think the Ethereum move is over. I think Josh and I make it very, very obvious that this is a sustainable move over the next couple of quarters or potentially years. I think the entries are going to be more difficult now because everybody's looking at it, but I am looking to allocate more capital into Ethereum during strategic pullbacks or consolidation fractals. I don't think it's over. I personally think Ethereum is going to be the trade of the year. But looking at the XRP chart, the Ripple chart that Josh just brought up, I think that is the strong candidate as well. All-time high breakouts are very scary for most traders that don't know what the fuck they're doing. But for those of you that have been in the market for 5 to 10 years, all-time highs are a great place to add risk because you know where you're right, you know where you're wrong. Buy the all-time high breakout, you're probably going to make more money than that over the long term. So, Josh, thank you so much. I appreciate your help here today, taking the lead and giving us invaluable insights. Is there anything you want to say before we leave?
I would say be sure to tune in because if we're talking about the Ethereum trade, we nailed that trade at the $1,900 pivot live on air. I made the case to Hammy that I think it was time to stop hating on ETH and start allocating, and we did that day, and probably the best decision for our portfolios that we could have made.
I mean, this was yesterday earlier in the day. I got as high as over 800% in the July contracts. I'm not kidding. This was hands down, the best trade that I've put on this year. I continue to be in it. I'm loaded in. Contracts going all the way to the end of the year. I've said this multiple times. I'm unapologetically very long this particular asset, and it's paying out. So, okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, folks. Josh, thanks again, and we'll catch you next Thursday for the Crypto Report. If you're a TTI member, please RSVP tonight. We're having our mid-monthly market blueprint, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to look at the entire market from a weekly standpoint and build out the summer volatility roadmap. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, folks. I'll talk to you tonight at 7. See you, Josh.
Cheers, folks.